Good morning, and welcome to Live in a Greenhouse on YouTube. If you're new here, this channel is about my journey to design, build, and then live in the first greenhouse enclosed tiny home in the United States. This week last year, Matt and his crew were busy finishing the house so that I could move from the 24-foot travel trailer next to the greenhouse into my new home. Before then, I'd only seen videos and read about the greenhouse enclosed homes in Europe. So even though I was exhausted, I was beyond excited. I was soon going to experience the reality. Even after the house was ready to sleep in, however, there were still a lot of projects to finish, such as finishing the pool and ponds, the drinking fountain and the potting bench, setting up the food garden, the ornamental garden, the sitting area, fixing the landscape outside the greenhouse, and refurbishing a couple of cabins that were pre-existing on my property. It was fun for me to look back over the last year. I hope my longtime followers will be just as surprised by the change between the then and now. So if you enjoy this content, please like and subscribe so YouTube will show it to more viewers. And stay to the end for a special message, and then come along today for a review of the last year of living in the greenhouse. We were building soon after COVID, so there had been material delays throughout the construction, but flooring was the most impactful. All the kitchen finish, interior doors, and paint had to wait for flooring, so the last week was warp speed ahead to get to where I could sleep in the house. Don't try this in a standard home. Because of the greenhouse, I could move in even before the door handles and locks were installed. Painted the exterior trim and doors after rainy season started. Using the shower for a few weeks confirmed towels would stay dry here, and the heated floor ensures that they dry. Lighting the inside of the greenhouse was a challenge. There are 3 smart outlets at the 8-foot purlin for the rope lights. One zone lights the sitting area, one zone lights the food garden, and one zone lights the pool. Went a bit overboard with smart and standard outlets at the bottom purlin for lamps and stuff in the seating area, air-to-ground fans, pool circulation pumps, and tools wherever I wanted. Using residential paddle fans meant custom brackets to hold one on each end of the greenhouse. This threshold helps divert water away from the greenhouse and closes the gap to keep mice out. During the design stage, I imagined a bridge over the pond for the sense of being on a dock at a lake. Of course, Mike and Matt delivered under challenging conditions. I hope to paint it next month before the water goes in. Once the bridge was in, there needed to be a step to ground level. There's plenty of rock in the yard, so voila, rock step. The inspector required Matt to put this crushed rock outside the bedroom and living room doors. I wanted a few inches between the ground level and the concrete to keep debris out of the house, so I removed it after the inspection. Longtime viewers may remember the saga of the greenhouse leak and ridge vent controllers. The roof leaked during the very first rain after it was finished, and neither controller worked. Apparently leaks are normal, and Billy returned later to fix them, but he couldn't get the controllers working either. Finally, Matt accepted that the wiring directions were not for this controller model and tried each pin out. 7 months after installation, the ridge vents were operable from the ground. I mostly leave them open 7x24 from spring until fall. The main reason for the peach tree in the northwest corner is to provide shade from the afternoon summer sun. For quick relief, I'd put up a blue tarp then temporarily hung cloth curtains from poles resting on the purlin, then fashioning rod holders directly to the purlin, and now taking them down for cleaning and winter storage. After a full year living here, there are very few decisions that have turned out to be a mistake. One of the biggest, however, was not applying a second layer over the seam of the pool and pond liners. A leak at the west pond seam prevented filling the pool before summer. I need 3 rainwater tank fills to fill the pool, plus one more for irrigating in the greenhouse through the summer, so I expected at least 4 more months of regular rain. However, the rain stopped in May this year, and since I wouldn't be able to fill the pool, repairing the seam became a low priority until fall. I pumped water back into the tanks until full and have been using pool water for the plants in the northwest corner. The water circulation system is air-driven. Although it's a fairly simple concept, it was complex and time-consuming implementation that, unfortunately, only works when the water is above the outlet pipe level. So both pumps are still temporarily bypassing these pipes until I can fill the pool when the rainy season starts. Once the water temperature was warm enough that algae would grow, I got floaters to help compete for nutrients, and the air circulation breaks the surface tension so mosquitoes don't breed. The water does not stink, and mosquitoes have not been a problem inside the greenhouse. One benefit of a greenhouse this size is the height to grow trees. I was so excited by the possibility of growing citrus that I way jumped the gun. The calamandan was planted in a good quality soil mix and has been fertilized regularly, but it was damaged during construction. Once pruned, it has recovered nicely. The Myers lemon and Persian lime were also planted in a good quality soil mix, but not only did they freeze during the December storm, but later got fertilizer burn and then under-fertilized. Some critter pulled up the lime, and the lemon has continued to struggle through powdery mildew and spider mites. I've been reading up on lemon care, so hopefully it will make it through. This year was the height of the tent caterpillar cycle, and the greenhouse was not exempt, but nowhere near as bad as outside the greenhouse. I was able to pick them off the peach tree before they made their tent. The Sam Houston peach was my joy this year. Peaches are very hard to grow in this area, but are recommended as a shade tree for inside the greenhouse. It arrived 2 months early as a 4-foot-tall bare root twig that I had to scramble to get a spot ready for. It flowered well, bore 3 perfect peaches, and is now over 7 feet tall. I've been spraying for spider mites for a few weeks and think that they may be under control now. We had to level the area for the greenhouse by using a cut and fill method, so there is no native soil inside the greenhouse. And the food garden area had been used for storage during construction, so I'll grow everything in raised beds, but that meant a lot of work to get the frames built and bring in dirt. I was pretty excited to get a load of dirt to fill the beds inside the greenhouse. I should have had it tested, though. It seems to have low fertility that I've had to apply more fertilizer than I've ever used in a garden. June finally got plants in the ground inside the greenhouse food garden and bunch of ornamentals gathered from a neighbor's yard. But it's so late, I'm considering this an experimental season. Now that the truck is running, I can bring in amendments to improve the soil throughout the greenhouse. So far, I've hauled the first of what will be several loads of horse manure. The ornamental beds around the sitting area had the same construction hardpan that I covered with wood chips to fill the space and cut down on dust until I was ready to work here. It took a while to install the irrigation around the sitting area, but I'm now able to keep up with watering. This area has the same poor soil that I think I'm now on top of the fertilizing schedule, and powdery mildew seems to be under control. I'll work on amending this soil over the winter for replanting in the spring. The sitting area has worked out as I'd imagined. The movers were able to leave stuff there instead of cramming it into the house while I sorted through what stayed or went. By April, it was warm enough to use even while it was cold and raining outside. It's still furnished with odds and ends from my last house, as I wanted to go through all 4 seasons to determine whether I could use house furniture or whether I'd need outdoor furniture. Although the light diffusing panels prevent the effect of being under a magnifying glass, the sun is still too bright through the summer, so shades were selectively hung to block the glare. This fence was required by code, but I got stained just before the rain started. Planting this area is a low priority, and I haven't decided what to do here, so I just cast wildflower mix with hope that something would sprout in the poor soil left from the construction. And several kinds of thistle came on with a vengeance. I've been trying to keep up by killing them before they go to seed. Didn't expect to have time to landscape outside the greenhouse this year, so I've really enjoyed the clump of foxglove daisies and rose campion I planted one evening last year when I was rabid to begin repairing from the construction. The copper bowl for the drinking fountain came from my grandparents' yard by the dock, so kids didn't have to come into the house wet and dirty to get a drink. I, too, don't need to go into the house dirty from the garden to get a drink. Score! The potting bench was made from free and leftover materials and still needs the tile counter laid. I'll work on more organization over the winter, but this has turned out to be just as useful as I'd imagined, and I love it. Matt gave me a queen bed set he'd made, so I tried to get rid of my king size set, and I was getting tired of it taking up space in the living room. However, the bedroom was designed for a king size bed, so I made the swap. The bed is now hysterically high. I need a step to get into it, but I love it. Being up so high with views in 3 directions, it's actually my favorite place to sit. And I now have a comfortable workspace in the living room. March or April is when I could leave the doors and windows open throughout the day, so I had to get curtains up for light control. Matt talked me into these 2 skylights, and I'm glad he did. I love looking up at the greenhouse structure, and they face north, so the sun never shines directly onto the steel countertops. All appliances are full-sized, except the refrigerator freezer is only 24 inches wide, so I opted to not have the ice maker option. Time to bring out the countertop ice maker for the summer. As late as June, the list of projects inside the greenhouse still seemed overwhelming that I wouldn't get to painting the cabins this year either. But July and August were too hot to work inside the greenhouse, so I got one cabin painted, and as soon as I finish making a level space around the second cabin, it'll get sanded and painted too. Now for a few of the surprises of living inside a greenhouse. I don't know if this effect happens with glass greenhouses, but I started to notice this sunset glow during the greenhouse construction. I didn't realize until New Year's Day, when the conditions were just right, that it also happens at sunrise. Wood chips were a free and plentiful material to cover the construction soil and keep down the dust, but they're too sharp for bare feet, so by June I had to laugh at the proliferation of footwear at each door. I've been surprised by how much sound reverberates in the greenhouse. I expected it to be loud during heavy rain. I didn't expect grenades. Well, not literal grenades. My property is ringed with tall evergreens, and during a severe windstorm, pine cones falling on the roof kept me up all night. During the December snowstorm, although the greenhouse air temperature went below freezing, the air-to-ground system's fans were not triggered, so earth temperature air was not circulating. Also, the pool was not filled to provide the mass to buffer the temperature. Still, the mini split kept the house comfortable, and the shower laundry area provided a good-sized heated space to suit up and to dry out gear afterwards. Definitely 2 thumbs up. One surprise this year is a direct result of what I now consider the single biggest mistake during the construction process. The mistake was to not install the several makeup air tubes that were planned to run from outside the greenhouse to just inside around the perimeter. Because they weren't installed, I've had to leave both greenhouse doors open to feed the convection to exhaust the hot air out the ridge vents. This has enabled a number of pests to get into the greenhouse. I'd anticipated mice and chipmunks. I had not anticipated deer and frogs. The frogs would surprise me when I would come across them unexpectedly, but otherwise I didn't mind them in the greenhouse. Different story once they started coming inside the house. As much as I don't want screens on the doors, I may have to get some. It was a treat to be able to watch the fawns through the greenhouse wall. I didn't expect deer to be brazen enough to come inside. Simple fix on the east door, but the double doors on the west end were a challenge since they're not a standard screen-sized door or a one-car garage-sized door. The cargo net had been a quick and inexpensive solution. Since it will now be too expensive to dig the number of trenches to retrofit makeup air tubes, I'm working on designs for installing screen awning windows along the bottom of the north and south walls. And there you have it. Some of the highs, the lows, and surprises over the last year of living in the greenhouse. And this is where I think I'm going to call it quits for trying to produce a weekly video and shift to just the month end walk around for the foreseeable future. I had hoped to be retired from my day job by now, so I'd have more time to produce videos and also learn the craft so I could produce better quality videos. Since I'm still working full time, it's just too hard to keep up this pace, and I'm tired. So thank you to my longtime followers. I hope you'll keep your subscription and come back next time for the September month-end walk around.